But anyway, welcome to this kind of unique event that we decided to put on kind of as a staff. Well, I kind of decided that we were going to do it and bring our staff along because I want to share what they're doing in their programs and what we're doing as an athletic program that we think maybe we can align as a community and kind of enhance our whole scope of athletics in town. Now, I understand that athletics aren't everything to everybody, but I am the athletic director, and sports are really important to our school climate, our educational process here. In turn, they're very important in our town, from the lower levels all the way up to high school. I strongly believe that athletics is an avenue for a lot of things, from my own experiences, from watching other people and their experiences, that it can create a lot of opportunities that other things just can't, and it can provide, obviously, lessons that other things just simply cannot do. So I'm very passionate about our athletic program, athletics in general, and the opportunities it creates. Not everybody that hears everything we say will agree with everything we say, but hopefully we can generate some topics that create some discussions within your organizations, and certainly us being here tonight, and some of our coaches will get up here tonight and talk about a few things. And it's my hope that if this is a success in your mind, that we all took something from tonight, that we can have these on a bi-yearly or a few times a year basis, to where we can get together and maybe even focus more in on specific sports and some of those things that we do in our program. So, the question, why would we do something like this, and why would we ask all of these Little League coaches in town, middle school coaches, all of our high school coaches, get in the same room and talk about our programs? Well, I think it's important that if we're going to establish a culture of winning in our town, in our community, especially with the transient nature of our military population, the in and out, and maybe, I don't want to call it instability because that's certainly not true, but certainly the lack of knowing who's going to be here from the Little Leagues all the way up through high school, we need to build a culture that has a swinging door, that is established that when kids come in, we place them in our culture and our programs. We get out of them what we get out of them. If they must leave us, we wish them well, but we're ready to bring somebody right in and establish what we're doing in our mold and those types of things. We're not going to talk a lot about drills tonight. However, I will have Coach Campbell, and he brought a guest with him to help us kind of go over some stretching type stuff that we do before. We'll get to that in a little while, but we're just going to talk about the background information, the culture, what we believe in, how we believe coaches can really lead by example and lead by doing some very specific things in practice and as they promote their own programs. And like I said, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about tonight that you may either have never seen before and don't necessarily understand. That's fine. We can answer questions. There may be things that you philosophically don't necessarily agree with. We're not asking that you, this is not a dictatorship at all, but perhaps we can promote a conversation as to why we think this way, and maybe we can find some middle ground or even get you to believe that what we're talking about really does work, okay? So with that, I just want to talk a little bit about our culture, and I know living in Mascoutah by now, you've certainly heard our EAT acronym that we use here, energy, attitude, and toughness. I believe in that. I think that finding something to kind of use as an engine for your programs, for one, to create some buy-in from your student athletes and coaches, two, to help hold your coaches accountable with something on a weekly basis that holds true to what you stand for and what you want to be, and three, have fun with it. And that's what EAT does for us. And basically what we're asking is that you guys actively become involved in the culture of your programs, not just showing up 2 days a week to practice where you haven't thought about anything, and you just come, roll the balls out, try to get through 2 hours, and then go home and then do it again 2 days later, and then try to kind of fight through that until the games start, because we all know that's fun. Where you'll really find success is when practice is fun, and when that is the part that you really look forward to, and then the games are more of the reward for having great practices. That's when you really have success. And some of you are already doing that. So again, we're not here to reinvent the wheel, we're here to reinforce what we believe in. In programs, this is such a profound statement. I didn't make it up, I just believe in it. But in programs with great culture, there's no such thing as little things. Like having equipment in the right place is not a little thing. Picking up all of the balls that are in the outfield is not a little thing. Like all of those things are measurable when it comes to building character within your kids. And if you can get rid of little things and make sure there's a level of significance to everything, your culture's already on the right foot. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do those things. So how can we inject these things in our programs? And how can you weekly change the tune to where you can have the same energy, the same attitude and all the things? I'm not trying to use that in a cliche way because that's what we talk about in all seriousness. If you can kind of change the way we think every week but have the same goal, you can have a lot of success. And what way we do that is we operate in season. Like right now we're in between seasons, so we're not doing it. But in season, we operate on a 4-week cycle. And what we'll do is the first week in the cycle is an energy week. And so what I would encourage you to, if you're willing to adopt our energy, attitude, toughness principles in your programs, is that we reward one kid per week, per team, for being the best example of that acronym or that word in our practices that week. So if energy is our focus for the week, okay, we're emphasizing energy in drills. We're emphasizing energy in our competitions. We're emphasizing energy in getting through adversity. Using energy to get through these things. And at the end of the week, in front of some coaches do it in front of the entire team. Sometimes I announce it on social media, and that's the first time kids hear about it. I'm good either way. But we will reward our kids at the end of that week with an EAT bracelet. We have one for each. So we have toughness, energy, and attitude. We have 3 different colors. They're like 30 cents a piece online. This is what we use. And our kids love these. And they really look forward to getting these. And these mean something because the coach awarded this to a kid for being the best example of that word of the week. And, you know, what's great about these is this might not go to a kid who's getting his name in the paper all the time or who is at the end of the year is going to win your MVP. When that kid's winning all of these, you're in really good shape. You know, when your best players are your best people, you're going to be in good shape, okay? But until then, find ways to reward the kids that maybe don't get a lot of recognition. Could be a kid that doesn't even start for you. But we use these for many ways, and sometimes, you know, coaches can use these when they're trying to motivate a specific kid. Now, on the reverse end of all this, we need to call out examples in practice that are not meeting our expectation on these words. You know, if attitude is the word for the week, we're going to reward a kid with a good attitude at the end of the week for sure, but we're also going to call out every kid in practice that has a bad attitude in a tactful way. Hey, this is an attitude week, and right now you're not being a very good example of that for the rest of our team, especially for a leadership type kid that you're counting on to lead the way. You know, you got to call them kids out, but you got to call them out. You got to call them up more so than call them out. You know, how they can be better, not what they're doing wrong. You know, we expect more out of you. The expectations are higher for you. We want a different level of it, and hold them accountable in a tasteful way. And there's a million ways to do that. Now, obviously with the 3 words, that's only 3 weeks. The 4th week, we let our coaches pick something that's important to them. Now, I don't micromanage this at all. They run it in their programs. I'm not one of those people that is going to go into coaches and tell them who they need to give this to and how they need to do it. But our 4th week could be a word that you think is very important in your programs. You know, it could be dedication. Okay, that could be your word for the week. You can change that every month to a different one, and you can reward that however you want. So what I'm encouraging you to do is, I'm not saying go and buy 100 bracelets. You can. They're cheap. But what you can do is you can buy stickers. You can find some other creative way to do it. You could print a free certificate off your computer. But all I'm saying is these little things do actually work. Because kids may not act like things like this are important, but I've never had a kid come down to my office to get their bracelet that didn't have some smirk kind of smile on their face to prove they were at least a little bit proud to get it. And so I think it's important. Now, I also understand that not everything you do reaches every single kid, okay? That's not going to happen. So we got to try to address the kids that are willing to be a part of that. And like it said at the bottom there, I want you to find unique ways to implement these things in your programs. You know, through your drills, through your coaching, in-game lessons to be learned. You know, certainly when I think of energy and effort, I mean, you know, toughness and all those types of things. That could be simply We could simply be talking about those things in a base running drill. Doesn't matter. A free throw shooting drill. The elements of those things exist in everything you do, and that's why I like those 3 words. I'm going to bring up our Coach Schumacher is going to come up and talk a little bit about failing first, because I think I'm switching gears here, obviously, but if you have any questions about the EAT stuff, we'll be glad to answer. But the next slide deals with failing. And I think that in society today, we like to highlight failure. On social media, well, that's the biggest place. In society, on TV, on the news, in sports, we like to highlight failure. We like to prove to ourselves that other people fail. And it, for some reason, gives people some weird kind of, I refuse to call it joy, but satisfaction. Nothing we can do about that. That's society. So the mentality that I like to use in our program, and I've talked to our coaches about this at length, and we always have conversations. We're in a book study right now. We're trying to find ways to be better. But failing is actually growth. Failure can be fatal. But failing is part of the process of growing up. And you're going to see it in Little League sports all the time, okay? But I think it's important to make failing positive for kids. When they're failing in practice, lift them up. You know, like I said, call them up, not call them out. Lift them up. Remind them they're growing. It can't happen all the time. You know, if we're failing now, it's an element of growth. It's not growth in itself. Got to keep the pedal on the metal as far as what's going on. But them understanding when they go home that it's okay that they were failing today in one aspect of practice with a goal to come back and correct that is all in the process. And there's a lot of ways to handle failing, okay? But I'm going to let Cole, I'll give Cole credit. You know, after a tough loss last week, this is the one topic he wanted to talk about. He feels like he's kind of in the middle of that, although I would argue that failing is far from what his program did. He did a tremendous year. He did a tremendous job with a young group of kids, winning 22 games and with a really young group and a team with not a lot of experience. Lost all 5 starters last year. He did a magnificent job, him and his staff, of getting a team ready to play basketball this year. And he wanted to talk about this topic. So I'm going to let him talk about it a little bit, and then I'll jump back in on the next slide.
What's up, everybody? Like Scott said, Cole Shoemaker. I was the last person to fail out of all the staff. It's been a hard week for me, for the kids. I wish we could have had another game. Wednesday didn't go our way. You know, Coach Reynolds and I are still figuring out what in the heck actually happened. But how many kids text me that next night, following day, man, I wish we could just go practice. If we had a game that next day, or Friday, it would have been a different outcome because, like, the failing aspect of it, it's not a good thing, but they've learned to cope with it, and they've learned to not let it happen very often, you know. It sounds cliche, but the secret to success, it might just be failure. When dealing with failure, it all starts with perspective. Do we look at it as a bad thing? And it can be a bad thing for sure, but it's helpful, right? It helps you learn. It makes you not want to do it again. You know, correct those mistakes that transpired. You know, it should drive you. How do you handle it and respond to failure is what's important. How do you respond to that, and how do we get the kids to respond? Now, as adults, that might be a lot easier. You know, when you're dealing with 16 and 17-year-old kids, how do you keep them into the moment, right? You know, I'm kind of unique where I teach the middle school, so I have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids, plus, you know, a coach out here, so I see all kind of levels. A lot of these kids, you know, they hold those emotions on their sleeves. They don't let go of things quickly, and it's our job to find ways to get past that and keep them, you know, positive. When you think about failures, look at your explainer. We look at failures, look for explanations, not excuses. Find the reasons you failed and acknowledge what you can do differently. I mentioned Coach Reynolds earlier. We still haven't pinpointed why exactly things did not go our way on Wednesday, but we're constantly learning. We're constantly watching the film. We're constantly communicating over and over. And even Coach Evans, you know, he coached the girls. I texted him after he lost. He texted me afterwards, and just trying to figure out exactly what can we do in our programs to get us over the hump. Like I said, always learning, always listening, always wanting help. That's the big thing. Coaches nowadays, and even I'll admit it, sometimes I can be arrogant. You know, it's part of it. But putting that arrogance aside and wanting help, asking for help. It's not about, me. It's not about, all of us. It's about the kids. We don't do this. We don't do this to have our name in the paper. Coach Shu wins another game. That's not why we do it. It's for Jake. It's for kids in general. That's why we're here. So if we're not finding those reasons and finding those fixes for the kids, we're failing them. Like last night, I went to Centralia played East St. Louis last night. I went with my old man. It was hard for me to stomach knowing that we didn't have a chance to be there. But like I said, always learning. I found myself no dog in the fight whatsoever, and I found myself writing things down that Centralia was doing because I feel like he is one of the best around here. And, it's just constantly trying to find that edge and learn and just fix the problems that you may arise. Communication. I think we'll talk about this later on a little bit. Communication, it's a big part in all of this. Like I said, we're talking to the staff. We're valuing their opinions. You might not always agree. I don't think Cody always agrees with what I have to say, and vice versa. But having that conversation helps us work things out. I had my end of the year meetings yesterday with my kids, with all of my players. I had them write down things they liked about what I do, write down things they didn't like that I do, and don't get mad when they say they don't like something. It's not what it's about, right? You're not always going to have agreements all the time, but having them have their say, you don't have to listen to and do what they say, but hear them out. I'm a big believer in communication with my guys throughout the entire year. Kids are a little bit different maybe than when we were in school. Like I said, I see it every single day with the young kids to being here and just hearing them out and letting them, they think they have a little bit of a say, even they do, is a big part. Be open to change. Embrace the help. Ask for it. We're all on the same team here. Like I said, we're doing this from basketball to softball to football. We're all in this together. Me and Aaron talk frequently about certain kids. How are we or what are we doing to help one another so that failure doesn't keep happening, right? Him and Frank, I personally think a lot of our problems towards the end of the year was a strength problem. Because Coach said earlier, we're starting 5 new kids. And if I didn't have those dudes there, and I don't see them every day. I don't work here, right? So they bounce ideas off with those 2 guys, their failures. They talk to them. It doesn't matter what coach, what sport you're coaching. It's just having the same aspect as in general. A couple last things. I'm rumbling off here. How are we handling failure? We've all been there, at a tough game at the end of the year, or in general, you lose a game you should have won. The room is upset, the kids are upset, maybe they're crying, heads are down. There's times where you have to get in them a little bit and let them know you're upset, right? But you have to read the room. I'm a big believer, and you just can't sit there and I holler. Don't get me wrong. Trust me, I holler too much. But at the end of the game, you got to know what's the room looking like. You can't just sit here and holler. Let them kids bring it home. Bring it back the next day, right? You can let them know you're upset with them, right? But bring them back with some positivity towards the end of it and keep them still alive, in the fight, I guess. Numerous times all year, my kids wanted to win so bad. So bad, every loss we had was the end of the world. And at that moment, for me, it felt that way. I don't like to lose. It's tough, right? But if they bring it home, they get it from their parents, they bring it to school the next day, it affects their entire day. It matters, no question about it. Failing matters. But just enough, right? Just enough to keep them back ready to go tomorrow is what it's all about. Right? You want your kids staying hungry, wanting to fight. I've been around coaches that just knock you to the ground. They don't want to get back up. And maybe I'm crazy, but I'm Kids are just different in a good way. They're just different than what they used to be, and they wear their emotion on their sleeve. They carry it with them all day long. You agree, Jake, somewhat? Right? It's hard getting rid of it, right? Friday night, Saturday morning, it's hard. But you got to realize you got a game next Friday too, right? You got to find ways to get it back. Like I said, be tough. Let them know your frustrations. Fall in love with the process. Let go of worrying about the results and just love the process. If you're doing things the right way, if you do things the right way, you practice the right way, you have a competitive practice, and failing's not always an option, eventually they'll get tired of it and they won't accept it. Right? It's going to happen regardless in life. Failing happens. It's part of it. Right? But that being said, finding ways to keep them positive going forward is the most important thing in my opinion. Kind of branching off a little bit about failure, but I mentioned earlier a little bit, well, why do we do this? Why do we do this? We're teaching these kids, obviously, life lessons. Obviously, you want to win games, but like I mentioned, losing and failure is a big part of life. It's a big part of life. Before I got a job here, teaching-wise, I was told no 4 or 5 times. And something I've always wanted to do. We got to keep instilling that knowledge in our kids. We'll just keep fighting. Eventually, you get what you want. Seeing my boys fail absolutely kills me. Seeing their heads down, seeing them crying, seeing them upset, that's what fuels me to make sure I'm doing everything I possibly can to make sure they have success. It ain't about me. It's making sure they had the success. Losing on Wednesday was tough. I can't do that with my 3 seniors anymore. They're gone. But I want to make sure, going forward, my guys who are coming back won't have that same feeling. I had kids that next day, and they're shooting 6:30 in the morning. It matters. We have great kids here who want to learn, and I think you guys in general are doing a good job with our younger programs, but making sure we're all on the same page in what we're doing. And last thing, trust your preparation. It's a little tip I have. Trust your preparation. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Don't expect results without putting that work in. I know I rambled on quite a bit here. That being said, it's just the most important thing is know what your expectations are and know your frustrations when you do fail, but make sure you're not letting them leave and totally just mad at the world. Frustration is a good thing, but bringing them up a little bit, have a little bit of excitement going forward while, we can do something special here. It's not the end of the world, something to look forward to. All right, that's all I got.
All right. Like I said before, my goal is eventually, and we got a couple other coaches that will talk tonight too. Not all of them. A lot of them are here tonight, but if you had specific questions. But we'd like to get to where they're all sharing some of their experiences so that we can pass those down to you. The things that I'll add, Cole did a great job kind of highlighting his program and how he handles failing. But I put 2 phrases up here that I think are vitally important, okay? When failing happens, don't change your system, okay? Fix your problems. And I'm guilty of it. Probably every coach is guilty of it. But the most storied programs, the places with the best culture at any level, from the Patriots to the Yankees, all the way down to some of the most successful Little League programs, they fought through the problems. They didn't change their system. And don't get me wrong, there's obviously time for change as things change. But the reason that you change everything you do shouldn't be because you had lack of success at one time. So you got to think about that concept. That's an important thing that's really kind of, I think one of the biggest problems people run into is changing things too quickly without analyzing what the real problems are. So, who do we want to be in Mascoutah? I think we all want to win. I don't think there's anybody in this room doesn't want to win. I don't think there's anybody in this room doesn't want the high school programs to win. There's nobody up here that doesn't want our Little League program to be successful. I think what successful is could mean a couple different things to who we're talking to. And maybe that's where we come a little bit closer tonight. But here's the thing we got to do. Eliminate all our excuses. Got a beautiful community, hardworking people, incredible volunteer hours put in by so many here. The park's great. We don't have the best athletic facilities in the Midwest for Little Leagues, but we are certainly on our way, and we have enough in the people and the spirit and the energy and the effort and the want to be great. We're not close. We're not close. I just don't want anybody to think that we're at some plateau. We got a long way to go, and I think that's important because the hard work's got to continue. And if it wasn't for some of your volunteer hours of most of you guys in here and ladies in here, we wouldn't have a chance. But we got a great chance now. But getting to the top will always be harder than, or will always be easier than staying there. So we're going to have to continue to work. And then when we start getting comfortable, because we are the epitome of what we want to be, we're going to have to work even harder to stay. So there's no relevant excuse to why we can't be the premier community in the Midwest for youth sports, high school programs, and not to mention high school and public schools in general. I mean, you're hard-pressed to convince me that there's a better place to raise a kid right now than what we have to offer as far as I joked around with Cole today. We are the free private school in the Midwest. That's what we are. Facilities, we got great education. We can offer way more opportunities and programs than any private school within 30 miles of here. We just got to find people a place to live. That's a whole other story. But you get my point. What a great place to be right now. You're all part of it. We need to continue to grow our circle with the right fit of people that want to watch us grow, want to help us grow. We got to get the poison out. We all know what that is. When leaders get better, culture gets better. When leaders stop getting better, culture sustains itself, and it is what it is. It will not go up from there. So there's two big things I believe in when it comes to building culture and being a leader at any level. I don't care if you're coaching T-ball, if you're the athletic director at a high school, if you're the athletic director at the University of Alabama, or you're a principal, or you're a fireman, doesn't matter. You cannot, in my opinion, be elite in anything if you're not a good communicator and you can't build relationships. And that includes build relationships with 5-year-olds. Now, that's a different animal. That's a whole different concept, and we can have a whole night where we talk about how to build relationships with kids, because it's different in every single arena you're in at every different age group you're with. But these points are all the same, and I don't want to read to you, but they are small, so if you can't see them, body language is huge. Body language is huge. Huge. Especially for the little kids. Body language has to be good. It's got to be good. They watch everything. They watch everything because they don't know what else to do. So they watch us. It enables trust. Kids trust people that they feel comfortable around. Now, I hate to relate this to crime, but you know the old white van with the candy and all the stuff? They're doing things to make kids feel comfortable. We have to make them feel comfortable as coaches so that they trust us. It's the same concept. You know, just as a criminal tries to make kids comfortable doing things that are bad, we need to make kids feel comfortable for doing things that are good. Extra stuff. And if that means bringing the ice cream truck to practice or ice cream out to practice or popsicles, it's okay at lower levels to spoil kids and do extraordinary, weird things. We want them to be retained, to love playing, to be a part of the program. You know, they must know you care. It's a cliche phrase, but it's 100% true. They must know you care before they care about anything you know. Because kids, by and large, don't listen. Very few do. To just anybody. But if you can get them to listen to you, you're ahead of the game. And I can't reiterate this enough. Yelling generalized statements doesn't work. Block somebody. What does that mean? Block somebody? Who? Instead of a good coach going, hey, John, when he takes that angle off the edge, you have to step outside of his shoulder, step forward and get in front. If you do that next time, we'll get a first down. Catch the ball. Come on. The poor kid that just dropped the fly ball, no kidding. And I'm being kind of funny, but dead serious. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those things kill kids because they know you're talking to them and everybody can hear it. Kills them. Their brains are small, their bodies are small. Their eyes are the same size as they'll be when they're an adult. Think about that. Think about that for a second. They see like an adult. They hear like a kid. They interpret like a kid. You got to be careful. They're fragile. We can't coach kids like we coach the special 2 or 3 that have it all figured out. We all got those kids too. They're great. They listen. They know exactly where to be. They're fundamentally sound. Very little coaching. We can't coach all the kids like that. Those kids need the least amount of coaching. They might be able to push a little bit harder, but they need the least amount of technical coaching. And then building relationships. It all runs together, right? Exactly what I'm telling you. Better relationships, better production. Huge. Trust, respect, mindfulness, all common sense stuff. Kids work harder for people they appreciate. If they don't like their dad, they don't work hard for their dad. It shows. You have those parents in your programs that the kids don't care to go home, they'd rather be with you. It's reality. I tell the truth. Kids, by and large, studies show they shut down due to aggression. Different forms of aggression. They feel attacked, they shut down. Except for those 2 kids that you can say anything to and they just come right back. Every time. That is such a small percentage of kid. We got to coach all the kids like we want them back. And that's huge. They feed off the encouragement. They shut down on aggression. It's a fact. By and large. And so, emotion, and I was trying to figure out an order for this stuff, as you could tell. And it's a lot of different stuff. So we're trying to piece it together the best we can because it all ends up running together. But emotion is huge. But it can make or break you too. It can make or break your program. It can make or break your marriage. It can make or break your relationship with your kids. It can make or break your job. Okay? But you're one of 2 things. You're either full of positive energy, and I know that guys like me, sometimes I talk loud, energy. Not everybody's built the same way. Not everybody's flashy energy. Everybody needs to hear energy. But internal energy, that fire. Now, you can be a quiet guy full of energy, and say you wake up in the morning ready to go to work. You might not be a vocal person. You might not be somebody that wears your emotions on your sleeve, but you have that fire inside you to be successful and be a good person and a good leader. But you have one of 2, and positive energy really fires people up, and it can hide flaws, which is great. You bring energy to the table, people want to be around you, you have good ideas, people feed off you. It surely covers up a few things that they might not like you do. But if you're a negative guy all the time, negative lady all the time, and people are around you, it's like, God, I really just don't want to go there because they're going to be there, and I just don't want to hear their negativity all the time. Man, then they talk about all your flaws. Not only are they negative, have you seen what he wears? You see his shoe, how he dresses? You see what kind of dad he is? You see what he goes. Everything comes out. So work really hard at positive energy. It's important. Everybody has a type. It doesn't necessarily mean it's shown on your outside. But you're a positive or negative energy person. One of the 2. And then ultimately, this is a really good debatable topic, right? Like, what is the significance and the role of Little League sports in a community? Feeder programs, middle school teams. Like, what's the role? Well, a lot of times what we do is we shift the role, the actual intended role, to meet like what we want to happen. We don't think we have really good candidates for this job, or we don't have somebody that can do it, so we're just going to put somebody there and then hope that it's okay. Bad. It's bad. Yeah, you're almost better off taking that team and joining it with another one with a good coach and a good staff. You got to really think about who you're handing a group of kids to. One person can ruin an entire age group of kids. One person. And you got to wonder sometimes when we got 40 kids coming out for a sport in one class and the next year we got 8. That wasn't a coincidence. Now, in our community, I understand we have a little bit of a unique situation with people moving in and out, okay? It's no excuse. Like I said earlier, when the kid that moves in that replaces them, they should want to be a part of that program just as bad as the one that left. But here's what happens, and we're getting over this now, but it's taken years, is if people leave with a bad experience, you know what they do? They make sure they tell everybody on the way out that this is a bad place to be. I can't tell you how many people right now, like, I think this place is the best. I'm biased, I get it, okay? This place is so much more dynamic right now than it was in 1996 when I was in high school. Some of you guys were in high school with me. Mike, guys, we were here. The athletic culture was just not good. Not blaming anybody. We just didn't have a whole lot to look forward to. Facilities were terrible. Our teams weren't great. It wasn't one person to blame. It's just a lot easier to stay there. It's a lot easier to be average. And so what I hate now is when I hear these people come in and I get a parent in my office and they're going, we already heard about Mascoutah. Don't like military kids. All you care about is Mascoutah kids. Culture's bad. And, my kid's doesn't have a chance to play, so we're looking somewhere else. That is a lie. That is a lie. We love military kids here. It makes my skin crawl when people say that. Now, does everybody, military, black, white, from Belleville, Asian, does every single kid that come in get the equal amount of playing time and the equal experience? No. Because we try to be fair to the programs and to the people. There's not a coach on our staff, because they'd be let go if they did, that didn't put the best kids out there that gave us the best chance to win, regardless of where they came from, what color they are, what religion they are, what their parents do for a living. In fact, lots of our coaches don't even know which kids are military, which aren't, which live in Wingate, which live in New Baden. We don't even know, because we don't care. You come in, be a part of our culture, do the things we need you to do. We love you. We will love you. Literally love you. Try to give you everything we can. And we make mistakes, like anybody else does. But it certainly isn't the fact that we hold a grudge towards any group of people, because if our coaches did that, they would be let go. And you kind of got to have the same philosophy down in the Little Leagues. I had a great conversation with Blake, and I've had some with others. Like, these are the types of things that, culture-wise, from top to bottom, we got to make sure we're paying attention to. Because if anybody's treating somebody wrong because their family's military, you got to get out of our programs. That part of our culture is too important here. We need to embrace that aspect of it. So those are the types of things that kind of I do have a chip on my shoulder about, because we strive to treat everybody the right way. Now, so what's the point? Retention. We got to retain our athletes, retain our kids. More times than you would ever believe, a kid that is very average or below average at 6 years old ends up playing a significant role in a high school program somewhere in this country. Could be, like I said, could have been somebody that grew up here at 7 that are now playing baseball in Alabama or Texas. I hope they do well. And I hope that they remember where they came from. Because our program should set every kid up for success no matter where they're going to be in 15 years. But retaining our kids, the ones that will continue to go through our system. And one thing that's important is lots of kids that move away from here come back. If they move away early enough and the parents had a good experience here, a lot of times they can come back as a military family. And that's what we're really proud of, is people that actually want to come back here. Goal setting. We should be letting kids set big dreams. If there's kids in your programs that want to play in the NBA, let them want to play in the NBA. Don't go, oh, God, everybody wants to play in the NBA. So what? So what? Everybody wants to play Major League Baseball. Everybody wants to be good. I hope their dreams are this big. Why are we limiting them? Now, when they get to high school, we may have to be honest with them as like a junior in high school and go, hey, you're an awesome kid, okay? You're an awesome kid, but, you're probably not going to play quarterback, or you're probably not going to be the point guard on the girls' basketball team. That's not how you fit our program. And we will be more real now, but at the lower levels, you don't have to be as honest about their dreams. At some point, they got to be making adult decisions, but at that point, that's not it. Let them dream. Relationships are important. We talked about that, but also what's important? Not only the relationship with you and the kids, but the kids and the kids. There's something to be said about a kid lying up on an offensive line when they're in high school And this kid right here all spent the night at each other's house when they were in lower levels. There's something to be said about that. That's real stuff. Or on the soccer field, when the goalie and the two kids in front of him all used to spend the night at each other's house, known each other since they were 6 and love each other. That goes a long way in any sport. Think about volleyball. I mean, the more those kids play together and understand each other's timing and the way the ball goes up in the air and the way, that's only built from relationships. And if they don't like each other, that causes a problem. Pitcher and catcher, huge. Huge. Now, with the way we do have people moving in and out, again, we are coaching so that when we get those kids, they fit into our process. And we can quickly get them up to speed. And then we wanted to obviously have a competitive and fun experience. We want kids playing Little League sports at Mascoutah to be fun. We want them to take it serious enough, but also have fun. I know the parents have fun. I want the kids to have fun too. You know, I want to get in that thing where all these kids are on the same team because all these parents want to go to these tournaments together and stuff. I get that's part of life. I got kids who play sports too. But it's the kids. Like, we're in this for the kids. You got to keep that in mind sometimes. Let's not play 2 extra tournaments just so we can go to some other destination. Whatever's best for the kids, we need to do. And so I put that at the bottom. Are we chasing success or are we chasing attention? And that's a serious quote. Are we chasing success for our kids? Not necessarily winning rings and for getting second place in some Little League baseball tournament. That's not what I'm saying. Success. Ultimate success is what? Let's be honest with everybody here. What's ultimate success for sports in our town if we can what? Win a what? Yeah, but ultimately, what are the kids going to remember when they're 60 if they can win a what? State championship. State championship. Like, all of our goal here should be to prepare our kids so one day they're having to parade down Main Street with a fire truck. Like, guys, that's realistic. We're different now. Like, that's realistic. The fire trucks thing's real. Like, they love doing it too. So, you know, that's real. And to me, we don't want a kid thinking winning the, GMA, is that what it's GB, the baseball thing? Winning that World Series at 8 years old is the pinnacle of their athletic life. Like, that's cool stuff, and that's awesome. Those things are great. I'm not taking away from those. But that should just be the step in, like, hey guys, these kids are going to spend it. Guys, this is awesome. Can you imagine, like, when we're seniors in high school, if we can just keep getting better? Like, we're going to have that big trophy on top of that awesome fire truck right down Main Street. That's what it's about. Like, that's what all of our goals need to be. And that's not trying to be selfish on my end, just saying ultimately that's the pinnacle, because high school really is the dead end for a lot of kids' sports careers. Like, it truly is. That's reality. You know, you're talking 5-6% of our kids going. We're fortunate here. We got 80 kids playing college sports right now, currently, 80. That's awesome. But we have 1,100 kids in school here. You know, but for most of our kids, for 90% of our kids, high school is it. So the pinnacle of that would be state championship type stuff, you know, or state trophy type stuff. And that's our goal. And that's why you're in here. So the journey, so important. The only person that can define a kid's journey is them. So important. So important. Not like, I really want my kid to be a good baseball player, or I really want my kid to be a good hurdler, or whatever it is. Okay? They've got to be involved in their journey, or they're just going to hate it at some point. We cannot miraculously expect our kids to be able to do things that we couldn't do simply because we wish we would have been able to do them. And a lot of times I feel like what we do is our expectations for our kids are almost to the point sometimes where we know deep down inside when we were that age we couldn't have done that. You know, like, just be realistic and celebrate progress. You know, don't allow failure to be fatal. And we'll continue to thrive. It's all important, but they got to be a part of that journey. So it doesn't hurt. And I would encourage all your parents that you have in your organizations at your first meeting to say, let the kids define their journey. Don't tell them what they should have done, what they should be doing. Okay? Just tell them they're there for them. Parents just really need to be there for their kids. I'm not like a parent counselor saying, like, the last thing they want to hear from after they heard it from you guys when they go home is just getting beat up at home about striking out 3 times or something. You know, kids wear it. They take it hard enough. They take it hard. They don't need to be reminded when they dropped that fly ball that you told everybody in the stadium about. Okay? Not you in particular, but you get what I'm saying. Okay? So, a few pointers on what maybe parents and athletes should expect from you as a Little League coach. And like I said, I'm just trying to give you information to take back to your teams. Throw away what you don't agree with. But if you don't agree with something, we'd love to talk to you about it. Be honest with parents. Got to be honest. Nothing worse than just stringing somebody along and then finally it blows up. We deal with it all the time at the high school. And I think you can deal with it the same way in Little League. It's tough because a lot of them are friends. I get that. But, give them the expectations. The playing time's always going to be the issue when they got a problem. It's always what it's going to come down to. If somebody has a problem, it's always going to, they'll find some creative way to tell you it's not playing time, but it is, ultimately. Or you're not using them right, or something like that, okay? So the phrase that I typically use if I believe in our coach and what we're doing, and like I said, we make mistakes. Now, publicly, nobody will ever know that I think our coach makes a mistake, okay? I'll deal with that with them behind closed doors. But when everything's as is, here's the thing. This is the role we've determined for your child to fit into our team concept the best. You and your child have two choices. You can embrace this role or we can part ways, and there's no hard feelings. I've got to use it all the time. Because ultimately, we have to decide what's best for our team. And you know what? What we think's best and what the parent thinks best might not align, and it might not align with some of the people in the community. But we got to do what we believe in. We're trying to win games too, and I'll tell you right now, our coaches put more time and effort than anybody would ever dream of in the film room, in the book, in the review process, in the reflection, than anybody would ever imagine. Hours and hours of prep for one game. For one game. Nobody that's a part of that would understand, nor should they. Okay? But we are doing what we think is best. Transparency is always best. Be honest with kids. Like I said, it's common sense stuff. But I think the last line there is very important. Keep the mindset that even below average young kids may become huge parts of our high school programs. There's a good chance of that, actually. There's a good chance of that, actually. Just how it was. I was a very average kid. I was a very average athlete. Grew a little bit in high school towards the end, but was a very average athlete. I was able to walk on, play Division I football, thank God, but that very average. Because you just never know when a kid's going to grow and fill out their body. So many factors. But I'm just one example of millions of average kids that were just given an opportunity. And I had good coaches. I had good Little League coaches. Good high school coaches that cared about me. That's all important. It's not about me. I'm just using an example that very average kids can really make a difference if they just believe they can. You believe in them. Our kids. So our kids come from a lot of places here. We aren't blessed with 10, 12 feeder schools. When you get out into Clinton County and stuff, there's a lot of feeder schools that go into a couple places. That's a huge benefit. They got, they're picking from, I don't know, Cole, what's modern day and Central draw from? They got 10 or 12, 7 or 8. So they got 7 or 8 starting fives that they're taking basketball kids from, and they all get to play all the time. That's a huge advantage. We won't make excuses here, though. Okay, we got 2. Holy Childhood and Mascoutah Middle School. That's what we got. So it means more when we win. But we got to continue to use all of our kids to our advantage. Military kids are our kids. Mascoutah kids, our kids. The ones that live in Belleville, New Baden, other communities, they're our kids. We got to treat them all like our kids at your level. And then we will do the same here. That's how that reputation changes. That's how that aura removes itself. One thing that fixes a lot of things is winning at our level. Because it is a community event when you come to our games. Community members, we try to make them community events, try to make our kids feel important. I understand that some sports draw more fans than others. That's society. That's how it goes. That's reality. That's just how it goes. Jack Guzzi is our tennis coach. Jack is our biggest sports fan in our district for all of our other sports, and hardly anybody comes to his tennis matches. You know what he does? What he never does? Never brings it up once. Doesn't go, sure, it'd be nice if some of these people would come to my sport. You know what he does? Coaches his butt off every day. just like our football coaches, just like every day. Great tennis coach. But he doesn't complain. It'd be nice if we brought some people over there once in a while. But he don't complain. But he's the first one at the basketball games. He's on the road traveling to the games. He does all that stuff. That means a lot to me. You know what? But he knows it's still important. Still important. That fire truck sounds the same way coming down Main Street, going to Jack. So I'm going to let Coach Hilgendorf come up. I'm just going to hit a couple points. I'm going to let him handle this. So where do we start? So here's the thing. If there's one, and he's going to talk a little bit about competitive practice. I think from a practice and sports standpoint, you can have a tremendous amount of success. Raise your level from where it is right now by one simple concept. Raising the level of competition in your practices. Making practices highly competitive. Having winners and losers in practice. Now, be careful, you don't want to call kids losers, but you get the point. Every drill's got a winner and a loser. Every situation has a winner and a loser. And there needs to be a consequence if they don't win. A reminder. And we'll talk a little bit about more of that in a minute, but Coach wanted to share a little bit on this topic, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
I'm a little shorter than Cole, so I don't have to lean over. But a couple things real quick, just on this competitive practice. There's a couple things, and I'm sitting here taking notes as Coach is talking and Coach is talking, and just a couple of reminders. Competition matters, win-loss matters, competitive practice matters after learning how to fail, after talking about what failure is, after talking about the great communication between your players and the slides we just had up there, and the relationships are built. Winning and losing, now I can communicate with them and dictate how that happens in a competitive practice, if that makes sense, and it just kind of came together as coaches were talking. And the other thing I just want to hit, I got all sorts of notes. I won't read them all, I promise. But there's a 95%, and Coach hit on it too, and side note, we didn't talk about what we're going to talk about. Well, one of the great things about the athletic programs here is the like-mindedness, the way we approach things, the way we're on the same page. We're in it together with you youth coaches. We're in it together with the other high school coaches. We're in it together. We're all here for the same thing. We make a point, we're going to go to some tennis matches, right? It's the same thing. We're here for each other. We're getting better together. But my point is the 95%, 5% rule. We have 80-some students, you just said, at college athletics. It's probably more than 5%. But this goes for all 100%. Why do we want to have competitive practice? We want to teach them to win. I mean, and the bottom line is we want to win, correct? We want to win at anything they're doing in life. And 95% of them aren't going to go on to college and win. We want to teach them how to win. There's other ones that the goal is the college. Move on, professional, those big dreams. We want to chase those things. But we want to teach them to win. I just wrote some notes. Win at whatever you're putting your mind to. And we have to teach that to them. We've all heard those people that say, oh, he's such a competitor. I hate to lose. I'm such a competitor. It hurts. A lot of times that ain't always the truth. It has to be taught that you compete at all times. Because we know, we got a baseball practice later tonight. We know some kids, when they fail, they're okay with it. Or they fail, they don't know how to handle it, and they pass blame. We want to teach them what it is to compete. And why? Because we want to win. We need to talk about competition, bring it up. That's a note. There are winners and losers. Coach just said it. You're going to have someone win. You're going to have someone lose. That's reality. That's the way life is. We want to teach them how to deal with that and how to attack the next opportunity to continue to win. And the goal is win, and we need to focus on that. Not always the failures. We can correct how we approach those things and all of that, but we want to focus on what it takes to win, and we're always moving forward in that light. So practicality here, what can we do? Competitive practice, what does that look like? Every one of our sports is different on how we run practices, what we want to do to accomplish on that day of practice. Every sport, I realize, is different, but there's some common themes here. Drill should have a winner and loser. When you're in a big team setting, there may not be an opportunity. You need to create that. What do you want to emphasize that day in your practice or in this segment or in this time frame? What is the goal that you're trying to emphasize? Well, you can emphasize it by simple competition. Is he going to win? Is he going to lose? You will get their best, and I got some notes on that. You can compete in multiple ways, and I know some of this seems like common knowledge. You can compete with yourself. I think a great way is if you record what they do in a drill, and this goes for really all sports, something we're always working on to get better at. I was talking to Coach Campbell about that. There's something we need to get better at is how can we do that? They compete with themselves. Track's a great example. When kids PR, okay, that's exciting. They're competing against themselves. That's competition. You're winning or you're losing. Did you improve? If you didn't, there's a consequence. One-on-one, simple, right? Me versus you, who's going to win? There's a consequence for the loser. Small units, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, group settings, whatever the drill is, you set it up to emphasize what you want to emphasize, but there will be a winner, there will be a loser. How do we deal with that? How do we attack and want to win after losing? If we win, how do we attack it to continue to win because of those consequences? And then obviously, I think we all think of those 5-on-5 up and down the court drills where it's team versus team. There's going to be a winner, keep score. It matters. And I have a 7-year-old, and I giggled through a whole, we had shoot the rock up at the Civic Center, and every single one of those kids, when someone scored, all looked up at the score. And they celebrated those baskets that the team was making because they practiced. He got in the car and he goes, I got better. I love that because they're aiming to win. I think just some practical things on top of that. Designate a coach, something I need to get better at. Designate a coach to keep track of that in practice. When O-line's doing one-on-ones, right, as an example from football, we should have someone keeping track of that. And then they can go get the consequence that matters at that time that is appropriate for that drill if they lost. If a coach is in charge, it just helps the production of practice. And take that role sometimes yourselves, pass it around. Immediately after the drill is over is usually the best time. Right now, reinforce that, okay? Again, we know how to deal with failure, but I lost, here's a consequence, I'm going to move on, I want to work to get better. Not the negative side of it, okay? There's negative and positive consequences. I think we can hit on both. We always think of the negative ones. I think a huge one is substitution. Talk to the kid, bring him out. That's the biggest motivator there is. You lost, you're out right now, right? Put somebody else back in to go compete. Kids want to compete. Push-ups are real simple, something quick, maybe just hit 2 push-ups. Hey, one-on-one basketball, we're doing this drill, he beat you, okay, you got 2 push-ups when you step out. It can be something simple and quick, but just to reinforce, we are here to compete, we are here to win. One thing I'm going to add, we don't try to go send our kids on miles as consequences. Hey, go take 6 laps while I sit here and hang out. We have a belief on that. I think all of our sports agree. We're not going to go run 2 miles because you lost. We're going to do something quick and effective as opposed to ruining the next part of practice because a kid's tired and beating himself up for too long. And I think that's a growth for all of us also. Positive consequences. Give the kid extra reps. Sometimes we have things where, hey, you get another one because you did well. Because you won, you can do another rep. Go first. You get special privileges. Simple things like that. Kids eat it up. Who goes first in line when we're having a little popsicle like Coach talked about? Who goes first? Well, you won that drill. If you won that drill, you're up first, right? Those kind of things. A big one, Coach Stepp is starting this. Coach Campbell does it in the weight room all the time. I know track does it. Anytime you can rank, record, and publish meaning people can look at it, kids eat it up. Coach ranks the top 10 every week when we sprint, when we jump. Coach Stepp's working on it. We got new GPS systems. She's working on a system to where those girls can see the competitiveness of where they rank on their speed and practice. Who had the biggest output? Who had the best acceleration? Who had the most time in sprint mode at this point? Whatever those goals may be, they're ranking, recording, and publishing those. Kids eat it up. I just made the note, don't let the consequence ruin the next drill. We want to keep them fresh and hungry, but that doesn't mean there's not a consequence. What's the purpose of it? Compete for what you want emphasized. You can compete in anything. We're training speed, you're training skill, some kind of teamwork game, any kind of knowledge you're trying to base on them for schemes, any kind of execution, get creative with those. What are you trying to emphasize and make it competitive? And we just talking with Coach Stepp on this. We want to create an environment that gets the athletes best. You're going to get their best when they're competing. We say it all the time. People work harder when they're watched, when they know there's a consequence. We want their best. So we're working on quality over quantity. We want good reps. We want good drills. We want good team sessions. Put a consequence, but make it competitive, whatever that looks like for in your sport. Creates that high energy Coach was talking about. Now you can use that energy. Picture any time, and I know there's better athletes than I was out here in this crowd already, when there was a lot of energy in a competitive practice, it was one of your best. No matter who won or who lost, it was you got better that day. When there's not a lot of energy, you're not being competitive, practices you don't accomplish as much. And then the last thing, it puts the buy-in comes, and it is more work. It is more work to kind of think through those things, but it creates that game-like atmosphere for your athletes. They've been there before. They've played under pressure. The old simple, I know I keep using basketball, but the old simple, shoot a free throw, there's a consequence on it. Now when that game's on the line, there's an opportunity for them to already have been there. Those kind of situations we put our athletes in. So really it's just an accountability thing, but you find ways creatively to make competition. We always think, well, that kid's not competitive. Well, let's teach him how to be. Let's help him with that. Let's help her figure out how to be her best by competing in practice and putting her in situations where she's probably going to lose, and she's going to learn how to compete to get her best. So that's my 2 cents on competitive practices, but it is a big deal. And while I'm up here, I just want to. This is a huge thing that we can be together on youth sports in Mascoutah. He's exactly right. There's not a better place right now. I told somebody that tonight. There's not a better place moving forward together than right here in Mascoutah. Firmly believe that, and this is just proof of it, you guys coming and working together. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Coach. I'm going to bring Frank up in a second here, in the second part of this with a dynamic stretch, but I just want to reiterate a couple things. Coach brought up our catapult system. Another reason this is a great place. We have a new system that we just bought called Catapult. It is actually monitoring our athletes during practice, speed, transition, and allowing our coaches to live data monitor our kids. So after practice, we get a printout of who was, you can help me a little bit, but how fast, tap speeds, all those things. They wear it on their chest during practice. So we know who practices fast, not who runs fast in the field house with a stopwatch. Who's practicing fast, who's playing fast. How much we are monitoring our kids 24/7. They're getting elite training. They're getting monitored all the time. And how are we getting better if we don't monitor them during the actual competitive time? You know, that's an advantage for us. Spent a lot of money on it, but our soccer teams are in it. We're going to work it into basketball, I think. I know football is going to use it, and we're going to continue to add to it quite a bit of money, but we feel like it's what's best for kids. It puts our kids in competitive spirit. I do want to hit on a couple things before I bring Coach up on just on what Coach said, and I couldn't fit all this below, so I wanted to say a few things. So I think a couple things that can really be beneficial for your programs and ours. When you think about consequences, okay, think about consequences that build skill. Like going and running around the pole doesn't build skill. Doesn't build skill. You should be getting in shape by the way you practice, okay? But there are different skills for different sports that you could use. Maybe he's got to go over and take 3 hard ground balls and field them before he comes back. That's helping the kid. Those are the types of things. The wrong consequence can really cost, valuable kids if they start running too much and hate it. You're making kids hate a sport, and they're hating it because they're doing things that have nothing to do with the sport. So think about that. Secondly, name them something positive. Pride reps, championship shuttles, toughness tackles. Like, give them a fancy name so they don't think it's so bad. I'm just going to go over here and get better anyway. It wasn't very good. I'm going to go over here and get better, and I'll be back. And also, punishing kids by running, other than working on sprinting, that teaches them to hate running, by the way. It's counterproductive. It actually teaches them to hate running in their mind. Like every time they run, they think it's punishment. That kills our track coaches. They need them to run. So we want them to like running. So running, if anything, use it as a positive. And then don't use that time to socialize with other coaches. We like to send them to run so we can talk about what last night. So coming to practice, shorten your practice and get after it. Save that half hour to go get a beer or whatever. But shorten your practices. Hour and a half of getting after it. Change the way you do things. So that is a real effective way to practice. Instead of just thinking, I got to be here for 2 hours. If they go run, we can figure out what we can do for the next 20 minutes. Terrible way to practice. Okay, terrible way. But anyway, wanted Coach Campbell. He's the best in the business. Him and Coach Stepp. He mentioned Coach Stepp a few times. Girls soccer coach Lauren Stepp does an awesome job. It's her, Coach Hilgendorf, and Coach Campbell in our weight room every day. Another benefit to being in Mascoutah. 3 full-time strength coaches, part of our curriculum. It's not something we do here. It's what we are. Strength training, speed and strength training is part of our curriculum, just like any other subject. And when our kids go in there, they are tasked with the same type of expectations you are in a real classroom, and that's been the biggest difference between us and our success right away. And we're just in the infancy stages of getting that to the next level. So I just want to say that. Coach is going to teach you how to stretch real quick. And the reason we want to do this is it'd be nice to unify some basic things all of our programs do to get ready for practice. Even if you take a few of them and add them to what you do, some of the old school stretching techniques are outdated. They don't do anything. Studies show that a lot of the things we used to do to get ready to play were counterproductive. Coach is going to show you just a few things you can do in your practice to get your kids, and these are cross-categorical type of stretches. Can be used for any sport. So, Coach?
All right, thank you. So kind of like Coach mentioned, great thing about this place is everyone is together, and that's kind of shown through the warm-up. We do this warm-up or some sort of variation of this warm-up and different movements every day in class, not every day, but at least 2 to 3 times a week in class before our workouts. And I didn't tell other coaches to do it, but throughout the year I'll go pop into girls basketball practice, boys basketball practice, and I'll look in, and before they start their practice, the girls team, the boys team, they're using a lot of these movements before they start their practice. I didn't tell coaches to use it. They kind of took it on their own, and they use it before their practice, games, and stuff like that. Big emphasis on this is important because it gets them warmed up, ready to go. It helps prevent injury, and we pride ourselves on speed here, developing speed. A lot of these movements, especially towards the end of our warm-up, are speed drills, all right, that we're trying to help teach correct running mechanics and stuff of that nature. So we use it multiple times a week just so they get more reps and stuff like that. And Coach had on the other slide, during this time, it's a great time to actually still coach up your athletes and coach up the technique and different movement patterns. So you get, so they hear your voice a little bit more, it sets the tone for practice, all that good stuff. But if you're just sitting there socializing with coaches, they're not getting that good coaching, they're not getting the correct movement patterns and stuff like that. So it's a great opportunity to coach them up during that time. I brought Jacob Church with me. He's going to actually demo these movements. I'll give you some coaching points. What's that about? Right. So most of these movements that we do, they start out slow, more of a stretchy type movement, and then as we go on, it progresses to a more dynamic speed focus movement. Most of the time, we normally start out with a lap around the field just to get the cardiovascular system going, get the blood flowing and stuff. And then from there, we line up. Most of these movements are about 10 yards or so. We adjust accordingly. Some movements we take a little bit longer. Some movements are a little bit shorter, about 5 yards. But we typically start out something simple, especially with youth athletes, start out with just a skip. All right, we'll go sometimes a forward skip with arm circles. Want to demo, Church? Just nice, easy skip, arm circles. Thank you. And then we'll also go a backward skip with backwards arm circles, taking it back. Great thing is, a lot of times if you just tell athletes to skip, you'll see a lot of different variations. They struggle with skipping, so just getting that movement pattern is great. Then we'll go knee hugs. We do these almost every day. Get a good stretch in quad. One thing that we harp on, especially in class, is every step is a rep. We only go 10 yards. A lot of times we'll get athletes that will get a quad pull or a knee hug, do a knee hug, and then they'll take 5 steps. And then they'll get a knee hug, and then they'll take 5 steps. They only get 5 reps in a 10-yard, or 3 reps in a 10-yard space. So we want to get every single step is a rep. We'll harp on that a lot. Quad pulls. Next thing we go to is quad pull, get a stretch in our quad. Same thing, every step is a rep. And we'll just keep on repeating that. Tell them to pull that knee behind the hip. If you notice his knee is behind his hip, that's really helping to get that stretch in that quad. Coming back, we do these almost every day. Scoops, great for hamstrings, All right, they're about heel to toe, and they're going to just reach down and act like they're scooping up their heel. They're going to push their hips back. They should feel a good stretch in the back of their leg and their hamstring. Then every day we're going to get some type of lunge in. So typically it'll be just a regular forward lunge. And we really preach on making sure that every step is a rep. All right, so they're not bringing their feet together. All right, they're driving out of that lunge right into that next lunge. Show what I mean by bringing their feet together. So a lot of times you'll see, especially young athletes, they can't balance. They'll try to bring their feet together. We want to turn it into a dynamic lunge where they're actually stepping into that next lunge. We'll also go a reverse lunge. This is where they really struggle to be strong out of that lunge into that next one, or they'll try to put their hands on their knees. Just really coach up, being strong, pushing off that front leg and driving back into their next lunge. World's greatest stretch. All right, so this one's a tough one. Hold up, church, real quick. So Coach Shu talked about failing. In the warm-up is a great time for athletes, especially young athletes, to fail and grow from there. All right, so world's greatest stretch is one that a lot of athletes fail at, and most of them, when they realize that it's tough and they don't know how to do it and they fail, they'll try for one rep and then they'll get up and walk 10 yards and won't try again. That's where we normally take an opportunity to help them grow from that failure. All right, they failed in the warm-up, they can't do that movement. We'll take them back to the beginning and walk them through it step by step of how to do that movement so they get it. And over time, they'll eventually learn, all right, and grow from that failure. So warm up, there's a couple of these movements that they will fail at the first time they do it, but the more you expose them to it, they'll get better at it, and then over time, it's gonna make them a better mover. All right, you'll see most of your athletes that are really good in the warm-up, they are probably some of your best athletes, all right? And they could grow in the warm-up into a really good athlete. So go ahead, world's greatest stretch. They're gonna take a big step out, a big lunge step. Their opposite hand that they're stepping with is gonna go on the ground to help balance them. Yeah, thank you. Then you're gonna take your inside arm, all right, and try to take that elbow and touch the ground. All right, they'll feel a stretch in that right leg, on the inside of their right leg there, and then from there, they're gonna rotate towards the leg that's up. All right, working on some T-spine mobility, and then from there, we take a big lunge step right into the next leg. So left leg, right hand on the ground, left elbow goes inside their foot, and then they rotate towards the leg that's up. All right, so world's greatest stretch, get to stretch a lot of muscles with that movement. And then from there, that's most of our stretchy type movements. Then we start to speed up the warm up a little bit. We call them athletic straight leg kicks. Some kids call them Frankensteins, but it's more of a bounce. So athletic straight leg kicks, get a good stretch in the hamstring, and they're being just really bouncy, opposite hand to opposite foot for that. Especially for young kids, karaoke, high knee karaoke. We'll go both ways, so they'll face the same direction each time. Go ahead. They're just crossing over. The kids will probably argue with you that it's called karaoke. It's actually karaoke, not karaoke. And we get kids. Actually, we had like 5 kids today argue us that it's karaoke. And then we come back the same way. Anything we do, any lateral, we'll do coming back the same way, obviously. And then next we'll go pogos. So pogos, especially young kids, teach them, pretend that they're on a pogo stick. All right, so they're just gonna be really bouncy, they're reacting to the ground. And one big cue that we focus on is having stiff ankles, and at the top of their jump, we tell them to dorsiflex their ankles. All right, so dorsiflex just means that their toe is pulled up to their shin. All right, it's great for speed development, ground contact time, having stiff ankles. So I actually had a lot of youth kids at speed camp over the last 2 summers, and a lot of them know dorsiflex. So if you have any sport practice, I go and quiz them on what is a dorsiflex ankle. I'm sure some of them will remember. But at the top of their pogos, they're going to go ahead and get a dorsiflex ankle. Go ahead. So they're just reacting to the ground, acting like they are on a pogo stick. His knees are straight. All right, he's nice and tall, in a tall position the whole time. And we'll just harp on our coaching points. Dorsiflex ankle, hips under you, be tall, quick off the ground. All right, for our pogos. We'll also go backwards pogos. So same thing, just going backwards. A lot of our movements will go forward and backwards for. Then we'll go tuck jumps. They're acting like they're jumping over a hurdle, pulling their knees up to their chest. Same thing, we're trying to get dorsiflex ankles at the top. We're trying to be quick off the ground, but for those, we're trying to get high off the ground as well. We'll do high pogos as well. So high pogos, similar to just our regular pogos where we're quick off the ground, but now we're trying to get up in the air a little bit more. We'll get a little bit more knee bend. We still have dorsiflex ankles at the top. Go ahead, Church. So legs are still relatively straight, but it's a little bit more knee bend. All right, just working on being quick off the ground, being really bouncy, springy. We got broad jumps. We'll go broad jumps next. So broad jump, they're just trying to jump out as far as they can, stick their landing. All right, get one more in. And we'll do these for about 10 yards. All right, stick their landing, just focus on driving out as far as they can. Power skips for height. These are called a bunch of different things. I had some kids tell me they're Mario jumps. I don't know what else. Peter Pans, I think some baseball kids, youth baseball kids called them. But we'll focus on trying to get up and have a big knee drive. We're trying to be really vertical on these jumps. They're going to jump off one leg. An easy way to coach it up is to tell them, pretend like they're going up for a layup in a basketball line. So go ahead, power skips for height. All right, and they're coming down, peeling off the ground and jumping off the opposite leg. So they're alternating which leg they're jumping off of. And then from there, we kind of get into our speed drills. Okay, so these are, I preach a lot. This is where we get a lot of coaching in. There's a lot of technical points that you can get into for your speed drills. But a couple things that we focus on is dorsiflex ankle, like I talked about before. And then for youth athletes, another big one would be just to tell your kids to focus on being tall. A lot of kids, when they run, they're super hunched over. They think they're faster if they're leaning. When you're actually at max speed, you want to be pretty vertical, all right? So we really coach them up while they're going through these movements, and we're just yelling out coaching points the whole time. Just a reminder, I probably sound like a broken record. Actually, Church does a good job of imitating me all the time in class of everything that I say over and over again. He's heard it a million times throughout football practice and stuff. But so first thing we do is we start out marching. We talk about having a dorsiflex ankle. Go ahead. I'll just talk. Being nice and tall and punching down. All right. Having big arms like they would if they were running. From there, we go high knees. They get a lot of reps in. Still putting force down into the ground, dorsiflex ankle, and he should be really tall. And then the next one we do is A skips. All right, so he gets a big knee drive, and he just gets a double bounce in before he switches his legs. Go ahead. So he kind of double bounces on that leg and then switches. They all look the same. It's just a little bit different rhythm to them. All right, but we're always preaching dorsiflex ankles, stay tall, keep your hips under you, punch down, all right, putting force into the ground underneath your hips. Then we go C skips. This is another one you'll see a lot of kids fail at, all right, go ahead. Church kind of failing a little bit, yeah. So it is the same rhythm as your A skips, except for you're going down, and then that leg, or for the second rep, the leg goes out. All right, so I always tell them up, down, out, down, up, down, out, down, up, down, out, down. And that's one they'll fail at a lot, but over time, as they start to get reps, they'll get a little bit better at it. All right, and then the last thing we always finish with is some type of short sprint, acceleration sprint. So that could be for really young athletes, it could be a push-up start. Have them get down on the ground, push up, and sprint 5 yards, 10 yards. One thing that we do at high school level a lot is a half kneeling start. Once you start getting older, coaching up middle schoolers, they could probably handle a half kneeling start. You want to demo one real quick? Facing, yep. So they'll take a knee, all right, and then from there, all they're focusing on pushing out and just sprinting. And you can have this be a competing thing. Sometimes we'll compete. We'll say we're racing to 10 yards. The winner doesn't have to do a drill or something like that. So go ahead. Just from there, they're in a half kneeling start, and they push out and sprint as hard as they can. We always end with something fast, some type of acceleration. And that's our basic warm-up that we go through for our class. We do it for football practice every single day. If you rep it enough, we got to a point where our football team kind of leads their own warm-up. And in class, I could kind of give the sheet or what we're doing, and a kid could lead it. All right, but we rep it every single day. It's going to help create better athletes for overall. And if you guys start incorporating some of these movements, even in your warm-ups, once they get to the high school level, we'll have even better movers, and our program as a whole will grow and be a little bit better. Thank you. Sure.
With our strength program. And I would say, you know, that's a lot of information right there. We're glad to get that to you. This will also, like I said, be a video. But I would say, and we do it with our Little League football team, we do about 6 or 7 of those things with our kids. And I would encourage you to just use a few of them, you know. And you all do things that are good, too. It's not that we're the only way to do things. But use a few of those, and then maybe eventually by the time you get to your older level groups, you got them all implemented and we're ready to go. But you can get that done pretty quickly once you become efficient at it too, you know, going down. I mean, we would be glad to, if you wanted to bring some of your teams over. Frank would be glad to demonstrate it outside when it gets a little warmer here, or any of that. But like pick and choose, but that's just some good information there. Running down here, guys, I'm sorry we're running a little bit longer than I thought, but a couple more things about leadership. You know, style's different a lot, but your influence can be profound. Doesn't matter. There's 100 different ways to coach. You know, I cannot go into practice and tell Cole how I think he should be coaching his zone offense. That's not fair, okay? As an athletic director, it's my job to give them the tools they need, to encourage them, to give them the platform they need, and get kids motivated to be in their programs. They handle the rest. You know, there's a million ways to do it. You know, from Nick Saban's style of coaching to a good friend of mine, PJ Fleck, 2 totally different human beings, but they both win a lot of games. So there's just lots of ways to do it, and you got to figure out what. But I love this quote. I did not come up with this. I wish I did, but it's one of my favorite quotes. Some random person, by the way. When better is possible, good is not enough. And I think that is so profound when you're talking about practice. Like if you're just going out there to be good enough for an hour and a half, you know, you're kind of doing your team a disservice. It kind of sounds bad, but that's kind of what you're doing. You know, if you can be better, be better. And that's what we kind of try to push ourselves to be all the time. And if we can be better. And you know, I don't dictate, but I'll challenge our coaches. That's what I'm here for. Challenge them to be better. We can always be better. I won't tell them what plays they should have ran. That's not my job. That's not my job at all. Okay? I like to talk about effort, kids' attitudes, and what it looks like from the top looking down as far as energy, attitude, and toughness. You guys call the plays. Now, if they ask my opinion, I'll give them my opinion. And leadership is an action, or is action, not a position. You know, no leader is just put in a spot, and a leader is too fancy of a title for somebody that's just given it to. Given to them. You know, it's action. It's doing things the right way. We're in the kid business. So you have to learn to understand kids, and I tried to hit on a little bit of that earlier. Oftentimes we take it for granted, but you really got to dive deep into how we understand kids. Replace I have to with I get to. Like we get to be around these kids on a daily basis and change their life. Little league coaches can change lives. There's kids on your programs that might not have it as good a home as you think. We just don't know. Lots of people wear different lives outside of their house as they do when they get inside of it. I have learned many tough lessons of that in this job with kids that I thought were fine. I would tell stories if they weren't so private. But you got to get to know the kids, and you got to be gracious that you certainly can change a life. You won't change them all, but you can change some. And I talked about this earlier. You got to treat every kid as if one day they're going to be a huge part of what we do, because you never know. And without passion, you don't have energy. Without energy, you have nothing. I do want to hit on this real quick. The Love Strong Foundation is a foundation that some friends of mine and myself established in honor of Coach Love, who everybody knows passed away a few years ago. And why I bring this up is because we can help your programs. What we are looking for are kids that don't have the means to buy a new pair of cleats, a bat, a glove, a pair of shoes, basketball shoes, a tennis racket, even golf clubs if that was something that we needed. If you have kids in your programs that you know need something, I don't want you guys spending your own money. I know some of you do. We have the funds and the means to do it. So we're raising money. We're going to give 2 scholarships a year, 1 boy, 1 girl, female, male athlete at the high school from our foundation. But what we're also going to do is give kids things they need. It might be a high school kid, might be a t-ball player. I don't care. If they need a glove, if they need a pair of baseball pants, we have equipment that we're starting to store and save up. We have a store right behind RE/MAX, little kind of used sport, kind of like a Play It Again Sports type model. We have a lot of stuff in stock, but what we don't have in stock, we also have gift cards to give out. So if a kid needs a new pair of baseball shoes, we don't have a nice pair that could fit them, we'll send them with a gift card to go buy a pair. We don't want to give away, extremely used stuff either. We want kids to have a good experience from our program. So we want to give basically new stuff or almost new stuff. So if you know a kid in your programs, and please let your coaches know, we do have a form you can fill out on their behalf. Get it to us. We'll approve it. Get you what you need. You get it to the player. We don't even care. And we'd like to know that it came from the Love Strong Foundation, because Justin would certainly love that we were doing this for kids in his name in town. Just to kind of keep his memory alive and what he meant to some kids here and our chance to lead. But we're serious about that. Any sport, we don't care. If we don't have it, we'll get it. Obviously, we don't want to spend $400 on each kid. We don't have that kind of funds. But we do want to help. And so, shoes. One other thing that we're willing to do, if a kid can't afford to play in your organization, we don't want them not playing in your organization, because we'll pay it. We'll pay for their registration fee or whatever we need to pay for, scholarship them. Just have a conversation with me or whoever. Most of you in here know how to get a hold of me. Send me a quick email, call me at the high school. We can figure out logistically how we can work on it. If we can't help, we'll tell you we can't help. But you guys know who needs help. It's hard for us to know. I just want to close. I want to thank you for being here. It means a lot that people actually come listen to what we're trying to establish in our town. Where are we headed? Well, these are just real numbers, okay? Our athletic program started, as far as we can go back, to 1921. From 1921 to 2014, that's what we accomplished here. 1 state championship in 1979, 4 individual state champs in different sports, 15 sectionals, a football semifinal, and a 4th place team trophy. From 2014 to today, we got a state team championship in track, 6 individual state champions, 13 sectional titles, a football semifinal, and 3 third-place team trophies. We had 8 MVC championships in 2021. We were also a finalist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch Program of the Year. We are going places. Now, I'm really proud of this because our coaches work their butts off. That's why we have these things. Our coaches work incredibly hard. I will put them up against anybody's staff. Okay? But I put this up here because this is the new there. This is the baseline. Like when I retire in 15 years, this is going to be over here. And from 2022 on, we're going to dwarf it. That's the goal. That's what we're here for. And not because winning is everything. But why do we do it? To provide kids with experiences they'll never forget. And positive experiences in sports are proven scientifically. I can't use the scientific word. Studies have shown that positive experiences in athletics have set people up for success in life. Many different variables to it. But there's plenty of studies that show it's a positive experience in kids' lives and as they go to adults. We all still talk about our positive sports experience or our negative ones, whether we're around with our buddies or whatever. This is an incredible 8-9-year run for us here at Mascoutah that a lot of people probably thought never was possible. But it truly needs to be the baseline and a jump start for where we want to go. Can't ever be satisfied. It's harder to stay at the top than to get there. We're still trying to get there, okay? There's really good programs in the area, but we want to be considered amongst the best, the elite. And when you look back on Mascoutah, you know, when we're all past our time, 50 years from now, I hope Mascoutah's talking about our era as kind of starting the greatness of what we will become. The Edwardsville, I'll use. They're great. It's a great program. Been for years. I was part of it for 3 years. Was blessed to be there. My brother's still the head basketball coach there. Does a great job. They got winning is in their fabric there. You know, Nashville, some of these other schools around here. There's 2 schools in Breeze do a nice job. But it's our time to be that school. And we already have a lot of people that come in now on a monthly basis to visit our strength program because I know we're doing great things, and I just can't give those guys enough credit, Frank and his crew. But we want to be the place that people want to be. And I think we're getting there. I think our facilities are growing. I think our Little League programs are starting to build into some real forces in that landscape. And one of the most important things we're doing is keeping our kids in Mascoutah playing our sports. And we got to make our place attractive. That's why we're trying to host things here and do things for people to move in. It's not recruiting. In essence, it is. We want people to move to Mascoutah because we want to grow this place with great people and great families. And I think we're in this great transition right now where things are becoming important that we always hoped were important. And I just can't thank you guys enough at the lower levels for at least just investing your time and wanting to do great things. And it's never been like that before here. I say this all the time. And Frosty Westring has a book that's based on what he calls the big time. And he talks about the big time not being a place, it's a state of mind, state of your heart. It's something you become. This is the big time. Mascoutah is the big time. We have everything to offer. We have the people. We have the place. We've got the momentum. And we got the kids. It's time to go. And that's why we're here. You guys are the beginning of what we can become. We can't do it without work down there. We certainly can't do it with people down there going against everything we're doing here. That don't work. Lots of communities do it that way. There's lots of infighting in communities with that group and this group because they don't know where they want to go to school. That's the one benefit we have about not having as many feeder schools. And they don't have a whole lot of choice. You grow up here, you're part of what we're doing. This is where you're going, but this is where we want them to go. You know, we've lost some kids to some schools in St. Louis. That's got to end. It's got to end. We got to be, you know, like I said, we got to offer everything somebody else does that people are paying to go to here. You got to pay taxes, but everything else we can take care of. Okay? That's it. Here's my contact information. Like I said, most of you know how to get a hold of me. You can email me. You can call me. Be glad to help out. But at the end of the day, I just thank you. I hope that you can take something from tonight that can help your programs, and we're an open book if you need more. Like I said, if you have an idea for us to do more of this and focus on something in particular, and it's okay if you want a specific sport. If you wanted me and Don to come in for baseball or Kate to come in for softball or anybody, Aaron or Darren, track certainly, to talk about something specifically, just let us know. We can set something up, gladly meet with your coaches. If you wanted to do more of this stuff where you're bringing your entire staff in here and we're talking about 10% of this presentation for an hour, let's do it. We're here. We're here for you. That's what we want to be. That's why these guys are our coaches. They want to do that too. So, all right? Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming, guys.